little bit melted onto the plastic. Whoever soldered it kind of over, pretty good soldering job, but melted the plastic a little bit. This is the Kato light system, one LED. Ugh, terrible. All right, so in the light board, light pipe, is that history? Okay, move the track here. Smooth sealing. So there are little injection, plastic injection feeds here, so we're just going to grind those down so the board will fit. Does it sound like the dentist? We took the plastic out so we don't scratch that. Okay. Drop of window glue to keep it in place. It can be cut out and it's at a part where there's no window. Might help if I put it in the right way. Put it over here so it's nowhere near the hot iron. All right, let's tackle this part. Easy to take these off. These were soldered, these two were soldered off campus, but a couple of them, they soldered them in place and it melted the seat plastic. We always take these out, pop that out. Somebody at Kato in Japan, when they were deciding how they were going to do these little brass strips, made a very perhaps at the time insignificant decision, but it actually saves a lot of hassle. The length and the location of the holes are symmetrical, so there's no front to back on this. So that really makes our life easier. And just take these off. Wet sponge after each time. We have a solder sucker, and we're going to remove any excess solder from the old ones, make it nice and flat. Then you're going to take our axle strips. Now these are for putting on the axles, but we can use them for all sorts of things. And as you'll see, these become our electrical pickups. And using Scotch tape here, the heat we're using is low enough, and we're far enough away from the soldering, so that just holds it in place. Pick these up later. There you go. Okay, and we're going to just wick some solder onto that strip. That's all there is to that. And there is a front and back to this, because we're going to bend the solder piece, the brass strip up through here where the light connection was, and we'll just put these back where they came from. Takes a little bit of coaxing. Okay, there's a little pin there, and so for that little tiny hole, we want to get that in there, and just pull on this, and that's good. See, I've probably done a few of these. Oh, and you know what? Get it upside down. So we want the solder facing up. So this is the part that touched the trucks. Just kind of make sure that's all set in there. Good. Perfect. Okay. All back. Now we have smooth pickup. Nothing into the whole idea. There was some wires going through here, and it was white wire, and probably couldn't see much of it in N scale. But by doing it this way, there's nothing inside the car, no wire or anything, and these things just get bent up behind here, and that's what we're going to connect the electrical to, and we're going to just clip them off, and that's the end of that step. And here we go with our light board. We've already tested it. 2 DCC pads. Put a little solder on there. Strip of decoder wire. I don't know, how long is that? 4 inches, 5 inches? So 2.5 inches. We're going to trim it, so it doesn't really matter. And this kind of decoder wire, you can just pinch. I don't have much of a nail, but you can just pinch that off. And everything in wiring and soldering and model railroading requires tinning. So we give, and so what happens is, give that a little solder, and that also cleans it up, and it allows us to clip off a little, make it very short. Okay. Now, I'm going to take each of these and solder them to the DCC pads. It just takes a split second because both of them have solder on them, just at the tip. Makes a nice clean joint. There's the lens, there you go. So there's it on. We're bending them backwards so that when we put the thing together, the board on top and the connectors sort of act that way rather than pushing it back into the car. All right, so, and again, before we didn't have to make them exactly even, but now we'll clip them off. About right. And I give it a little spin here, just spinning my left fingers, and there we go. I have a piece of plywood, 3/4 inch plywood, I don't know, 1 by 1 square, and I have a little piece of paper here, and I toss this out. This gets dirty, and the neat thing about this whole setup is when you see me a couple of times pushing things off, pushes it onto the desktop off of my surface, not onto the floor, and then later on I'll just clean up the desk. So this is a pretty efficient way to do things. My tools are right here. Got a good clean work surface. You can see what I'm doing. Okay, so that's all there is to that part, and all we have to do now, so this board is going to flip over here like that and light the car. So, and we've got to put a little solder on the end of these brass. Anytime you're plastic, come at it from this direction so you don't melt the plastic. Just a little dab there. I'm going to do the outside one first. Okay, that's all there is to that part of it, and we're going to bring this back. There is a hole alignment here. There's a pin here, so I know that that goes on with those things. Turn it around so I can see. Okay, on my layout on my cars, I put a little bit of super glue to hold these two pieces together. Just one little dot. You don't have to do that, but that just kind of saves some things. We'll bend these connector wires up a little bit. Okay, so another way to do this is you have to make sure where the car is relative to the seats. So the door has to be in the right place, and it looks like it goes that way. So we're going to take this piece, we're going to put it in here. We are just setting it in there, and we're not using double stick tape. And the reason is that there are little stays there. We designed the board to fit into Kato cars. You put the stay between the stays, and it stays. It's meant to just sort of hold it in place. And then when we get this going, we just slide this in, and there we go. So all neat and tidy. Get some power over here. There you go. Voila. Now you can see the red in the back here a little bit, so we're going to turn that off. It's so that, oops, what happened there? There we go. There. That's done it. Okay. You can do it some more. And you can set the CV to set that to 0. All right, let's put it on fade up and down just to make sure it all works great. Fading down. There's a flicker mode. Put it into flicker mode. And up and down and fade down. There we go. It took about 15 minutes. Actually 18 minutes.